As you're digging through your attic looking for things to sell, you might come across some obscure things like this. This is the IQ8300. I happen to know that this is a ZX81 clone. Now you say, what's a ZX81? It's one of these right here. These were manufactured in the early 80s. And they're kind of in nasty condition, need to be verified. And I happen to know that the membrane on these is just going to die. And I happen to also know that these already have that issue. So the first thing I'm going to do here before I dig into that IQ8300 is I'm going to get some membranes on the way for these two guys right here, which will hopefully sell for maybe $100 and $125 a piece. Right here, we can get this membrane for $12.99. Let's go ahead and get 3 of them because I know I've got 3 of these ZX81s that need this part. While we're on eBay, let's go ahead and check out to see how our previous video is doing, our previous auction, the Ameritron AL80. I did this one just yesterday, and let's see what we've got for watchers and viewers on this. Wow, I've got 55 views and 5 watchers. Nobody's bought, but I'm going to leave the price as it is on this. By the way, if you want to check out that video, you can go check that out right there. This I'm going to leave alone. Normally at this point, I might say I'm going to back down the price a little bit, but wow, the watchers is growing, the views are growing. So let's just leave this thing alone for a little while. And then maybe in another day or two, I might drop this to like $10.49 or $10.50, something like that. All right, now let's jump back into this, the IQ8300. Let's jump back into this, the IQ8300, and let's see what this thing might be worth, what we might be able to get for it. And I'm going to do a little research online. But I think before we do the research, we need to actually find out which ZX clone this actually is. And then we can work from there to figure out what the value might be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over to the other camera. My focus was jumping in and out. Sorry, it says manual focus on this. I'm coming off of a feed off my little camera here. And for some reason, I cannot get all of the little things, the 3, the 0 seconds, manual focus. We've got a chip here that says NEC, another one that says Toshiba. I'm honestly not sure where to start with this one. The whole goal here is to see what we might be able to sell this on eBay for. So I think what I'm going to have to do now is jump over to the AI or to Google and see what we can figure out here. So let's do that. IQ8300, which I believe is a ZX80 or ZX81 clone. Can you ask me about the chip so we can determine which it is? All right, let's find out. NEC. So we're looking at this. It does mention NEC here. So this is a Japanese second source of the Zilog Z80A CPU. So this is definitely a Z80 based Sinclair clone. So it says to pin down whether it's closer to a ZX80 or ZX81, the deciding parts will be the ROM chip and the video logic and the RAM configuration. I don't know. I think the AMI chip on here is probably the ROM chip. Looks like some of the numbers is brushed off. It's going to be hard to read. But what I'm going to do is let me just feed all of these into the AI and see what it says. So it says here that according to AI, it is a ZX81 class machine, not a ZX80 clone. Well, that's interesting. So how do we hook this up so that you can see it, you might ask? And here's what I'm going to try. I'm going to try and use this thing right here. This is a little converter that turns a composite signal, which is coming out of this board, which I already know works because I've tried it in a monitor that supports composite. And we're going to try going from that into this camera system. At the same time, and before I get too far, I'm going to blow this thing out on the insides. And I want to screw it back together, but let's blow the dust out of it using this little guy right here. This is the Wolfbox Super Power Turbo Fan. So let's try, it's giving me some of these commands here. So let's try print 2 plus 2 and see what happens. I don't know if you can hear this thing beeping, but it's actually pretty cool. All right, it says 4. Print 2 plus 2 resulted in 4 with OK at bottom of the screen. Let's try peak 16384. It says flashing E. I don't know if you could hear the error sound, but it meh. All right, the conclusion is that it is a IQ8300, is very likely the Lambda 8300 style ZX81 clone, not a ZX81 itself, and not a ZX80. So it is apparently unique. Now I think here at this point, my guess is the value goes down. I don't think we're going to be able to find one of these on eBay, but let's give it a shot. So now I have found this Def 3000, and it looks exactly like, except for this stripe on across the top, it looks exactly like what we have here with this one. So this is interesting, and it is approximately, let's see, it says approximately $250. Really? I thought this thing was like 50 bucks. All right, so now we have a way better target. And again, this proves why it's so important to do the research. But look at that picture. Oh, look at all these pictures. It's exactly the same. It is exactly the same. Oh, he's typing all the characters. Whoever the seller is, looks like they typed in all the characters. QC passed, except my sticker looks just a little bit different. Wow. All right, well, that's cool. $257 here. So that's cool. And see, this looks exactly the same. All right, well, that's awesome. So I guess we're going to find out if all the keys work. Okay, so this says 50 to 100. If you had the original parts, maybe 100 to 150. And maybe that's why this other one is still for sale. So it says 50 to 100 bucks. Well, let's see if we can get, since it's in decent condition, let's actually target 125, and then if we need to back it down to 75 bucks, I'm pretty sure it's going to sell. So let's target the price at 125. I'm using the just sell one like this. There's our pictures. Let's make this one the main picture. All we need to do that is just drag it there. It said the cartridge does not function. I don't think that's actually the case. I think that's just AI telling us we tested the cartridge and it didn't work with this particular cartridge that I have. I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to drop that. Full function, all keys work. All right, it's listed. Let's see if we can get 125 for this ZX81 clone. All right, this is important information here because we did a little research. We upped the value of the product because of the research. I was starting at 75. I'd niggled myself down to about 50 bucks after doing some AI research, but then when it came time to ask AI what it's worth, actually was in a little bit higher bracket there. So an extra 50 bucks could be, maybe, if this sells for 125 instead of $75. Let's see what happens. I'm going to leave the link to the auction down in the comments, in the first comment. So check out the comments if you want to see what happened with this particular auction. I will try and update with a comment once I know it's sold, and I'll try and give you the price there as well, or in the description. All right, that's it for now. Have a great day.